Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be filming part 2 of my Reddit recommends for favorite books by Black authors. So, as we discussed last time, the 5 books that I'm going to try a chapter of in this vlog are Zone 1 by Colson Whitehead, Deacon King Kong by James McBride, The Deep by Rivers Solomon, A Master of Gin by P. Jelly Clark, and The Midnight Bargain by C. L. Polk. So for these books, I really wanted to read a sample of them like from the library or whatever, because I believe that most samples are about 1 chapter long. I was able to borrow Zone 1 and Deacon King Kong. I was able to borrow Zone 1 and The Deep, like fully borrow the ebook from my library because it was available, which is nice. And then I have the audiobook for Deacon King Kong, also that was available from my library, which is nice. I will have to read a sample of A Master of Gin and a sample of The Midnight Bargain because those ebooks had quite a long wait on them at the library. So if one of those books is the winner by the end of this, I'll just buy it on Kobo. And I think what I'm gonna do is after I read each of the first chapters, like I'll update at the end of every chapter and just give some overall thoughts and try to give a rating on intrigue. And I think I'll do a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the highest intrigue, and then obviously 1 being like no intrigue. And then at the end, whichever one has the highest intrigue will win. If there are 2 that are tied, I think maybe I'll read like the next chapter of each one and see if anything happens in those secondary chapters that kind of like heightens or dampens that intrigue that I had initially from the first chapter. I think also the first one I'm going to read is Deacon King Kong because I have that on audio and I need to go empty my dishwasher. So I'm gonna go empty my dishwasher, listen to that first chapter, and then probably make a quick coffee, and then I'll update you when I'm done. Okay, I just finished chapter 1 of Deacon King Kong, and like the synopsis sounded good overall, and I'm very impressed with the first chapter. It also had a layer of comedy to it that I wasn't really expecting, because it's supposed to be about this guy who literally shoots and murders this deacon. And so yeah, I was a little, caught off guard by the humor, but I liked it overall, and I think the story is interesting. I'm not like 1,000% on board like in this moment, but I've never heard of this book before, which is wild because I think it was an Oprah's book club pick. Yeah, but yeah, I've never seen it talked about online in any of the spaces that I'm in. But it's definitely one that I think I will read when the mood strikes me. But this first chapter and like the layer of humor and the writing, and also the narrator is doing an amazing job. He's doing all these different accents for different people, different sexes. So I think right now, I don't know if I'm in the mood for this type of story, even though like I am super intrigued by it. So my intrigue in this moment right now is probably like a 6. And I think when I'm more in the mood for it, my intrigue would like jump up to like an 8 or a 9. But right now, just like I just feel like I need something that's gonna be a little like less related to real life. Although I do love these kind of stories where, there's like nuanced discussions on racism. There's a lot of themes involving like gentrification and like, class struggles. So I do like enjoy that in a story, but I just don't know if it's going to like suit my mood currently. So I'm putting it at a 6 because I am intrigued, but I don't know if it's right for right now. And I don't know what I'm going to read next. I think because I have to sit and read physically for the next one, I might try The Deep by Rivers Solomon. I think I'm gonna try that one next. So I will go read chapter 1 of that and I'll let you know how I liked it. Okay, I've actually finally made a coffee. I finished the first chapter of The Deep, and I love the writing. First of all, the way that this is written, it almost feels lyrical. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. This one is definitely, I feel like this one, even though it's like rooted in fantasy, like it's these kind of mermaid type people that are like the descendants of shipwrecked women. I'm having trouble remembering like the specifics of the synopsis, but from what I remember, it's either like the descendants of like women who were thrown overboard or like shipwrecked women who like were lost at sea or whatever, and they were pregnant, and then like I don't know if they like gave birth in the water, and then like those babies became these creatures, which I think are called Wajinru. And we're following this character called Yetu, who is the historian for the Wajinru like peoples, and Yetu has to have the burden essentially of remembering everybody's past and how they came to be like part of this group of creatures. I was gonna say people, but I think they're creatures. And so I think that Yetu is like really burdened with a lot of the like harrowing things that those women, their ancestors, have been through. And there was something in the first chapter where Yetu said that her like memories and her being were kind of scooped out of her body to basically make her like an empty vessel. So that way the previous historian, who I'm assuming died and like had to pass on the memories, kind of like in The Giver, if you've ever read The Giver. Yeah, so she basically like can't remember her, like how she came to be there, and I don't think she remembers like her mother or anything like that. So yeah, so she's basically like this empty vessel who had all these memories like placed on her, and it's based on her like ability to feel like electromagnetic currents and in the water and stuff like that. Like I guess like she had a really great aptitude for that, so that's kind of like how the previous historian chose her as his predecessor. And I think that's so fucking cool. I love when science and magic like commingle. So cool. I'm gonna give this a 7.5. I think I'm really excited for it, but it's one of those books where like I think it's gonna make me cry. So even though I'm really excited, I can feel myself like, you know, pulling the reins a little bit because I'm like, it's gonna make me cry. But I'm going to make some rice quick to have like a little sushi bowl thing for lunch, and I don't know what I want to read yet, so I'm gonna see if I can find an audiobook for whatever I have, like a sample audiobook, and I don't know what to pick next, so I'll let you know in a few minutes. Okay, I just put my rice to simmer, and I think I'm going to try and see if I can get the audiobook sample for The Midnight Bargain by C.L. Polk. This one, I remember being so interested when I read the synopsis. So let's hope that continues after I read chapter 1. Also, I had a look on the ebook because I did borrow that from my library, and the first chapter is 30 minutes, and I have to chop a cucumber, and I have to chop a cucumber and slice an avocado right now, so I would love to be able to do that with the audiobook. I'll let you know after I read it. Okay, quick update to say I did in fact manage to borrow the Can you see that? My rice. It's on low. Why did it bubble so much? Huh. Interesting. Anyways, I did manage to borrow the audiobook for The Midnight Library. However, the narrator is one that like I've listened to a few books narrated by her before, and there's nothing like wrong with her voice. I just think her accent, I don't know. I feel like she puts on a bit of an extra posh accent than what she like has in her regular speaking voice. And a lot of her like words sound really breathy, so I'm going to stop listening to the audiobook for that and see if I can get the audiobook sample for Zone 1 instead. And then I'll read the first chapter of The Midnight Library on my Kobo after that. Okay, I made my little tuna sushi bowl thing, and I've got some nori that I've cut up into squares. And I listened to the first chapter of Zone 1 by Colson Whitehead. It was really short, which is unfortunate, but I think this is another book that I would need to read with my eyes because the audiobook narrator was fine. He just didn't really do anything for me, like nothing to write home about. I do still want to read this just because I like love a zombie story, but I think based on the very first chapter, the writing style is going to take me a little bit to get used to. And for that reason, I'm going to also give this intrigue a 6. And I'm going to eat my lunch. I have 2 books left. I have A Master of Jinn, and I just talked about it. I'm having a brain fart. What is it? The Midnight Library. I have those 2 left to read. The Midnight Library first chapter is really long, so I'm gonna see how long the first chapter is of A Master of Jinn and read that one while I eat my lunch. Okay, I just finished chapter 1 of A Master of Jinn, which was also quite long. However, wow, what a chapter. Okay, I give this one a 9 for intrigue. So I don't even know what to say. Whew, I feel flustered. I got chills. Like the last paragraph of that chapter. Whoa. If you've ever seen The Mummy, how Brendan Fraser's character like is looking for artifacts and etc., stuff like that. It gave me a little bit of those vibes. So we were following this person named Archibald, and he had a like artifact on him, and he was going to this meeting called the Brotherhood of Al-Jahiz, which Al-Jahiz is like this infamous like person in Egyptian history, like in this world. I don't know if he's a real person, but he was like just this like guy that they were after, like artifacts relating to him and stuff. And Archibald brings this item to the meeting, and like a lot of like there was a lot going on. There was a lot of like world building and setup in like woven into the writing as we like followed Archibald like on his way to this meeting. He was like running a little bit late. This other guy was outside, and he was like, oh good, like we can be late together. They go in. The meeting starts. Archibald is like the vizier for the like head of the Brotherhood guy. So Archibald gives this artifact to the head of the Brotherhood, and he opens it, and it's this sword that is like, I think it's like a scimitar, and it was a like all black, like the whole sword, the blade, the hilt, everything was just black. And he said it looks like it absorbed the light, and it was very like menacing. And then the head of the guild, I guess you'd call it, like he's about to give a speech, and then they hear a knock on the door, and the door like busts open, and a guy walks in who's like all like black robes, like you can't see his face. He's just like, you know, like black shroud and everything. And he snaps his fingers and he duplicates. And then him and the duplicate snap their fingers, and then they both duplicate. So then there's 4. And then I think he snaps his fingers 2 more times, and then there's 6 of these like black shrouded men or figures, because I don't know if they were human or whatever. And then in behind them comes this other black clad figure who is like black cowl, black like shroud, but he's also got black chainmail, and he's got this mask where there's like, it's like a black mask that has gold writing that's kind of like scrolling along the mask, I guess. Fucking cool, first of all. And then the like head of the guild is like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, you're not supposed to be here. Like, who are you? Get out. And he's like, I am Al-Jahiz, the one you were just talking about. And then he's like, no, you're not. So he kills him. So Al-Jahiz killed the head of the guild, or actually I don't think it was the head of the guild, it was like his right hand man or something. He basically like wouldn't shut up and was just like talking shit, and this Al-Jahiz character was like, no, you're dead. Actually, one of the duplicates walked up to him, snapped his neck so fast that his head spun and was facing the wrong direction, and his arms were sticking out in front of his body, and he was walking in circles until he eventually like collapsed and died. But his face was facing the ground, and his toes and body were like facing up. That was wild. So then at the end of the chapter, the head of the guild, after that happens, he's like, there's no need for any more violence. Then he's like our guild is like dedicated to you. If you can prove who you say you are, like, we'll do whatever you want. And then Al-Jahiz is like, yeah, sure, I'll prove who I say I am. And then he burns them all to death. So literally everybody in the first chapter died. And then I did swipe and peek at the second chapter, because the guy that we were following, Archibald, who was like the main character of chapter 1, yeah, rest in peace. Rest in peace, Archibald. It was nice knowing you for the 20 pages that you existed. Yeah, so I am very curious of how that continues, because that was wild. So I swiped, and Fatma is the main character, which I do remember now that I like mention it from the synopsis. And then it said like Fatma, blah, blah, blah. Like, so the next chapter now, I think we're follow the main character. So basically chapter 1, it was really long, but even though like, yeah, it was interesting because it did a lot of good setup, and it really gave me like the Mummy vibes. And because there's like this secret society, they're like a brotherhood of this, you know, supposed like Egyptian guy, Al Jahiz, who, by the way, the leader of the brotherhood was apparently looking for evidence that Al Jahiz was a white Anglo-Saxon, because I guess he's depicted in Egyptian, like I think they were in Egypt when this was happening, and the brotherhood like was in Egypt. And I think that Egyptians had like records of him being a black man. Yeah, but then the white guy was like, Al Jahiz ain't no black man. He's fair-haired Anglo-Saxon like my ancestors. Blah, blah, blah. Like he was very adamant that this guy that they're looking for was not a black man. And then Al Jahiz shows up shrouded in black. And then according to his voice, the first guy who died, like who got his head twisted, he said like, there's no way you're Al Jahiz because you don't sound like a white man. And then, you know, he got killed for talking back to this like shrouded, mysterious, magical being. And yeah, wow, that was so good. So interesting. I still have to read The Midnight Library, but I'm not gonna lie. I think A Master of Jinn is gonna win. Yeah, I think The Master of Jinn is gonna win. That was so intriguing. And I almost feel like maybe I should read the second chapter because everybody that I like met and got to know in the first chapter is already dead. So I'm like, should I read the second one just to see like if I'm still liking the vibes and stuff? But honestly, like just the writing style, it wasn't like overly flowery or like metaphorical or anything, but it did have like a very nice flow. And I liked the way that P. Jelly Clark kind of, it was like in a movie, if the camera is like hyper focused on one character and it's like locked on that character, and then that character is moving through the room, but the camera is staying with the character, like that's the way it felt like reading that chapter. Like we were very much so locked on Archibald. I felt like we were over his shoulder where he's like looking at things and we're seeing them with him, but we are also like very much like locked on him. So I really hope that style of writing kind of continues. And even if it doesn't, I still think the writing was great so far. And yeah, that P. Jelly Clark. I should have known because I read The Black God's Drums by P. Jelly Clark probably like a year and a half ago at this point. It's been a while. That one was so good, and it was odd because like at the beginning, like I felt like I didn't really understand it at the beginning. It was like very like sci-fi-ish, but also kind of like magical realism, but it also kind of took place like in New Orleans, but like it also wasn't New Orleans. Like it was odd, but by the end I was like jaw on the floor. It was so good. And I should have known that P. Jelly Clark would come at me again with this beautiful writing and intrigue me from the get-go. There's just something about his ideas, like his synopses of his books, to me always just sound so interesting. Okay, so the last thing I have to do is read one chapter of The Midnight Bargain. You've got a lot to live up to, kid. A Master of Jinn is definitely my number one spot right now. Followed by The Deep by River Solomon. That one also really intrigued me. So even if that one doesn't win, like it didn't, because obviously I've already rated it lower than A Master of Jinn. I think even if that one doesn't win, like I'm still gonna read that one probably this year, because that probably soon, maybe in April, because that one, oh, I could tell that one was gonna be beautiful. Like just the way it was written, I could tell it was gonna be beautiful. But I am in the mood for like a little bit more action right now, which I think is why the first chapter of A Master of Jinn, like being so fucking crazy, really just gripped me, you know? All right, I'm gonna read this and then I'll come back and I'll let you know the final verdict. Okay, so the first chapter of The Midnight Bargain was literally so long, and my co said that it would take me 30 minutes. I read like 22 minutes of it, and I just already know like I'm not gonna be in the mood for that kind of story right now. It is very much giving like romantic-y vibes, which is fine, but I don't really want that right now. it was talking a lot about like how she had to get married against her will, like an arranged marriage for money, and if she gets married she would lose her magic. And there was just so much talk about like dresses and gowns and like silks and fabrics, and I'm just not in the mood for that right now. So my intrigue for that one is about a 5. I do think that it is a story I would enjoy. I just need to be in the mood for it, but I'm really not in the mood for that right now. I'm more excited to read something with action. So it's safe to say the winner of the Try a Chapter tag is going to be A Master of Jinn by P. Jelly Clark. I'm really excited to read the rest of that one. It sounds so good, and the wait at the library for me is like literally so long, so I'm just gonna have to buy the ebook, I think. Stay tuned for the reading portion of this reading vlog. Okay, as I'm sure you just saw, I was walking into the library because I remembered I don't need to buy the ebook for A Master of Jinn. I can go pick it up. So I did, and I'm really excited. And I actually asked normally I use the self-checkout, but today I asked the librarian at the desk a question, and so I had her just check that out for me since I was there. And oh my god, she was like, girl, this is on my TBR. And I was like, I read the first chapter and it was so good, you need to read it. And she was like, okay, when you return it, I'm gonna check it out. Which is really funny. So yeah, I hope I like it because I just recommended it to her based on the first chapter. But oh my gosh, she was so nice. I love librarians. I gotta love them. Support your local library when you can, because otherwise they don't get funding to buy books.
Try putting your hand in it. Oh, my hand is spread in it. Try putting your...
Hey, I'm coming at you from the floor of my bedroom today. If you hear yelling, it's my husband and my son. I've been hiding in my room because I have my period and the cramps are bad. And I read another chapter of The Master of Jinn. Sorry about the glare. It's a library book. Yeah, so as you would have seen, I did pick this up at the library instead of getting an ebook. So I read the first chapter and chapter 2. So after reading chapter 2, I just want to explain the premise a little bit more from like my understanding now that I've been in the world and with the main character, because in chapter 1 that was kind of like a cold opening where we followed this other character and this group of people who die at the end of chapter 1. So they're not like really relevant to the plot at all, but I'm gonna explain basically what I think is happening here. I'm just gonna put that down so you don't have to see the glare anymore. You know what it looks like. So after the events of chapter 1, we switch to the POV of agent Fatma El Sha'arawi, and she is an agent for the alchemical, it's, one second. She is an agent for the Ministry of Alchemy, Enchantments, and Supernatural Entities. So she's basically this investigator who I think is hunting down artifacts and magical beings. And in this chapter we see her trying to negotiate the sale of this sealed little bottle thing that's kind of like got gold filigree on it with a jade seal that's got like Chinese characters around the cork. And the people that found it, I guess, like found it fishing or something and are trying to sell it now for money. And then they realize that there's a djinn in there and they're like, this djinn could give us anything we want. Why should we sell this to you? And she's like, trust me, it's not what you think. Like, you're not gonna get 3 wishes out of this. Please give me the bottle. And the fucking guy opens the bottle like a dipshit. And the djinn immediately is like, who wakes me from my slumber? I'm going to kill you. So then she's trying to save these 2 idiots. And she does. She kind of negotiates with the djinn a little bit to get the djinn back in his bottle and let him go back to sleep, and then keep the 2 dum-dums from getting murdered by the djinn. And in exchange for this deal, she offers up her true name, which apparently like means a lot to the djinn. And so yeah, so then that's like settled. And then right at the end of the chapter, this robot shows up who's called, one second, because there's a word that they use to describe him. Okay, so she says she spots a man walking toward them. At second glance, it's not a man. It's a boilerplate eunuch, which I think is like a steampunk robot messenger. And it says, by its lithe frame and sleek gait, it's one of their newer messenger models. So this is a really cool glimpse into some world building. I think that this is kind of like a steampunk version of Cairo, Egypt, and I believe it's set in like 1910, 1912, like around there. Yeah, so this is like a steampunk Egypt, and the messenger like tells her like, I have a message from the ministry and I need to see your identification because it's classified and I have to make sure that you're the correct recipient. And then she gets the message and she's like, oh, like I have to go to Giza, which I'm pretty sure she's going to investigate the big murder of like that whole group of people that we saw in chapter 1. Oh my god, I'm so excited. This is literally so intriguing, and there is definitely some like, you know, it's not feeling slow. I don't know how to explain it. It feels unrushed, I should say, but it's definitely not like dragging, but it is like a slow, like you're just following her as she's just going about her life. In the first chapter, she's at this like restaurant and she's kind of in disguise a little bit to hide the fact that she's an agent of the ministry. We're like almost in her head, but I think it's third person. Yeah, so it's third person, but it's focused on her. And so we're kind of just experiencing things as she is and learning what's going on through context, because obviously like she already knows what's going on because she exists in this world, like she is fully functioning there. And I think the way that P. Jelly Clark like kind of like just kind of throws you in and then like lets the context build up until suddenly you're like, oh, okay, like that's what's going on, is really masterful. Because there are a lot of times where like some books I'll be reading and I won't have any context and I'll have to like Google some things and be like, oh, what does that mean? And then it takes me out of the story just a little bit, but like obviously that's my own fault. But I think that P. Jelly Clark does such a good job with the context clues, like actually kind of like helping you as a reader figure it out. And I also just think the world is so cool. Like, what do you mean there's a robot messenger called a boilerplate eunuch? That's so cool. And the way that the bottle was described that the gin was in also felt really cool, because it had I wish I could find the spot where they described the bottle, but it says it looked like a bottle made of metal instead of glass, with a pear-shaped bottom inlaid with flower and gold designs that ran up a long neck. Its surface was tarnished a dull bronze, but she could guess that it was brass. And then he's talking about it and he's like, oh, we've never seen a bottle like this before. And it says his hand went to a stopper at the bottle's top, running along a jade ceramic seal engraved with a dragon. I feel like this world is doing a great job of blending like old architecture and like making it feel authentic and historic while also like being steampunky. And it's like kind of crazy, which honestly, like if you look at the cover, all the cogs and stuff on here make a lot of sense. But yeah, I'm not gonna do like spoilers for this vlog. I figured since that was the first chapter that it was fine to talk about. But anyway, the plot, I'm assuming, is at the end of the chapter she gets this message from the robot guy from the ministry, and she's gonna go investigate everything that happened in chapter 1. So I'm assuming that she's gonna have like some kind of run-in with Al-Jahiz maybe near the end, which I think might be cool. I really hope we get to see more of her discovering artifacts and like magical things. And my curtain is blowing in front of you. And I hope that we get to see more of the steampunk elements. It was the very first chapter and it was all focused within this like restaurant, maybe a bar or like an inn kind of situation. And oh, that's actually not my son, that's the neighbor's kid. I thought my husband took my kid outside. I lied, it was the neighbor's child. But yeah, honestly, like I'm loving it so far. It's just, I don't know, it's really just giving me like the Mummy vibes. And it's not at all similar. I mean, it could get more similar for all I know, but like just the fact of it being like kind of historical, and they're like, you know, it's like got a little bit of archaeology involved because they're looking for artifacts and these signs and like magical beings that supposedly existed like however long ago, and like now jinn are kind of commingling with people because of this guy Al Jahiz who kind of like tore the like door open between like the magical world and like the non-magical world. So it's definitely like giving a little bit of the Mummy vibes, but like it does have that steampunk element that's like starting to creep in, but it also really has cool historical elements so far as well. And I don't know, I'm feeling like it's just a good like amalgamation of all of these things together, and I'm just really excited to keep reading. Also, at the beginning of the book, like it shows everything else that P. Jelly Clark has written, and it says also by this author, The Black God's Drums, The Haunting of Tramcar 015, and Ring Shout, and those are all novellas. And I think that this is his first full-length novel. I don't know if this was his like debut and he like went into novellas after that. I'm gonna have to look it up and let you know more in my next update, because if this is his like debut, I'll be so impressed. Although I read The Black God's Drums and that was amazing too, and I think that might have been the first one out of those novellas that I said. I'm gonna have to look into like the publication dates and let you know in my next update, because I'm just already so impressed. It's only been 2 chapters, which is 27 pages, but like I'm so intrigued. Good morning. It's been a few days. I'm currently sick again. Yay. March is going lovely. I took a detour from reading A Master of Jinn, and I really quickly read A Dead Jinn in Cairo, which is like this prequel. No, like it's not even a novella. I think it's just a short story because it's only 45 pages. And it definitely helps set up some of the backstory of like what's going on with this Al Jahiz guy and some other lore about the like angel and jinn type creatures that kind of are in this world. So it was definitely really cool. It was very short, so I probably like won't rate it. It was like 45 pages maybe, but it also took me forever to read because my family got sick and I got sick, and I also got some medical news that's like not great. So just kind of coasting through life right now, doing the motions and hoping for the best. So today is March 11th, I think. It's really been like a week since I've updated you. But I need to go downstairs and order some groceries. I'm not driving the car as much as I can for the next probably couple weeks, just while I figure things out. But so yeah, I'm gonna order groceries because I'm not getting in the car if I don't have to. And I have a list of things to do that's on my phone, which is you guys. But I think right now my main focus is going to be order groceries, get that done, and then probably just read for a little bit. I think when my husband gets home, I'm going to ask him to help me do the litter boxes and vacuum downstairs. And then before we get in bed tonight, I need to change our bedding over to our clean set. And I think that's all I'm gonna do today. Actually, I need to make a quick phone call for my son for a checkup for him, and then I need to start some loan paperwork. If you have school loans, you know, once a year you gotta renew them, like renew the payments, and oh my god, it's really fucking annoying. And it's also really annoying because my loan provider will not allow me to sever my cosigner, even though we are no contact and have been no contact for 10 years, and even though she is my abuser. So I'm like low-key considering refinancing just to get away from her, and I'm trying to convince my husband that it's a good idea because he's like, it's gonna end up being more expensive, and I'm like, yeah, but like every time I renew my loan stuff, like she has access to my personal information, like she can sign in and see our address, and we're moving in the summer, so like it's good that I'm doing it now because then when we move in the summer we'll have like a couple months of like her actually not knowing where I live, which is great. So I think once we move, I'm going to refinance. But you know, if you have student loans, you understand the struggle. The struggle is real, and they don't prepare you for that shit in high school. So all of that to say, I'm blabbering because I am diddle-dallying on going to do chores, but I'm gonna go do that now, and then I'm going to watch Gavin's Patreon sprints. He's sprinting with Beth from Beth Bartholomew today, so I'll have both of them linked down below just because I love Gavin and I also love Beth. She's great, so check them out. But I'm gonna go do my like things that I need to do, and then I'm just gonna read until my kid gets home. I'm very stressed out. I'm very stressed out about this medical thing, and I need to pretend it's not happening, or I might have a panic attack again. I've had like 10 since yesterday when I found out. So having a good March is going great for me. And yeah, I need to also eat lunch and take some more amoxicillin for whatever's going on here. I thought I had strep. They said it was negative, but they're treating me anyway because my son has strep. So I don't know. I really don't even know. Wish me luck. Oh, I should say, since I took a break and read the short story, I'm still at the same place here in A Master of Jinn. I'm on chapter 3, and the last thing I read was Fatma getting this letter from the automaton, like robot type thing, saying she has to go meet the ministry because they have a job for her, which I'm assuming is they want her to investigate the big murder situation that happened in chapter 1 when we had that cold opening where Al-Jahiz supposedly, I don't know if it's him or not, but when he supposedly murdered that whole like brotherhood. So I'm assuming that's what the job is going to be that she has to go do. So I'm gonna hopefully read more of it today. I am also still working on a couple of other books just that I want to read, and I've been taking forever on because life is just getting me down. Life is getting me down lately, and we're just trudging along. We're reading slow, but we're still going. I'm not letting the slump take me. I refuse to let the reading slump have its way with me. So even if I'm going slow, I'm just doing my best. I'm pushing and shoving and kicking and screaming, trying to keep up with what I want to be doing, which is reading and not stressing about bullshit. But I'm gonna go do stuff, and I don't know if I'll update again later today. If anything interesting happens, I might pop in. But oh my god, I just saw a big crow. Wow, I got distracted by a crow. Yeah, I might update later, but I might not. See you then. Hi, it's been a couple of days. I just wanted to update and say I'm on 64% of A Master of Jinn, and I'm really liking it so far. I think Agent Fatma is really strong-willed and smart and resourceful, but she also does have some flaws, and her character is really interesting because of the flaws, obviously. And there are a couple of side characters that I'm really enjoying. The plot also is really fun, and even though there's like a very serious tone to it all, because there is some social commentary on like race and, you know, fascism and like slavery and other prevalent social things in the 1920s era. But it is also like, even though it mentions some of those serious things, it's not following like history exactly. So I like it in that sense, because honestly, I kind of hate when historical fiction that is like fantasy-esque is like, oh, well, you know, it was racist back then, so like we're just gonna make everybody racist because that's how it was back then. And it's like, there's literally fucking magical creatures. Like, I think it's okay to exclude the racism, you know? So it's good that, because like there's still a little bit of that in there. Obviously, I'm not saying there is none, but I think it's doing a good job of making it a little bit more modern and, you know, less shitty of a time to live in. But I'm really enjoying it. I don't want to say anything other than that because of spoilers. So I'm going to hopefully finish this book in the next like 2 days, and I'll give you my final thoughts and a wrap up when I'm done. Okay, let's wrap up my Master of Jinn reading vlog. I finished 2 days ago and I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I thought it was really like fresh. It felt unique. It felt like fun and new. Agent Fatma as a main character was riveting. She had some quirks and flaws, and she like knew that about herself, and she was like conscious of them, but she was just kind of stuck in her ways. And I think by the end of the book we really see her like learn to just kind of grow a little bit, like let go of control over some things, and just kind of open herself up like as a person and a character, and it was fantastic. I don't want to do spoilers in this vlog, so I'll keep it very vague. But Agent Fatma is set to investigate this kind of murder of this guild that we saw at the beginning, that I talked about obviously at the beginning of the vlog when I did the try a chapter tag. And there is so much like magic and monsters. There's jinn, there's ifrits, there are like these giant mechanical angels who are not really real angels, I don't think, but they're called angels. And there are like so many cool like creatures and mythological things in this book, and it felt really rich with Egyptian culture. It felt really like diverse and socially aware. There was some commentary on like slavery and racism. There was one like kind of situation with the jinn that was definitely a metaphor for slavery and racism, and I thought it was really integrated seamlessly. Like it felt like realistic to this world, to this point in time. And there were a couple instances where the characters were like, oh, over in America, like, you know, they're free from slavery over there now, and there's a lot of colorism here still in Egypt. And there was a lot of chat about that, but it was so natural. It was between characters at a bar, or between characters who were catching up after not seeing each other for a long time, or it was discussed at like conferences. And there were white characters who were oblivious to those things because they weren't from Egypt. Like, and I think the way that the mystery played out was also really fun. Fatma is so smart, and there were so many moments of her investigating a clue or a lead on this mass murder at the beginning. And she would sometimes fail. And it was really nice to see a character who is trying to solve a crime. They have a lead. It leads nowhere. It gets them nothing. Or they fuck it up and they like destroy the trust between the confidant and, you know, the investigators. And it was just so good. I really loved it. It was amazing. Also, I'm so glad that I read the first 2 chapters, immediately decided to take a break and read the short story, because the short story does come into play in this story. There are things that happen in here that were continuations of the short story, and it is like mentioned and brought up in this book. And there's another novella that goes in this world also. I believe it's called The Haunting of Tramcar 015, and that gets alluded to ever so slightly at the end of this book. So I think it's perfect that I haven't read that yet, because it's about a character that like you don't know that well at the beginning of the book, and by the end of the book, like the character, well, in my opinion, this character grew on me and I really love them. So now I know that I can go read Tramcar 015 and it will be about them, and I get to read more about them, and that's exciting. So I think actually the perfect reading order is what I did, which would be A Dead Jinn in Cairo, A Master of Jinn, and then a little prequel side quest, The Haunting of Tramcar 015. So I'm really looking forward to reading that in the future. I'm hoping to get to it later this year, trying to stay on top of series this year. Wish me luck. But I had an amazing time making this video. The try a chapter tag part was so fun. I think all of the other 4 books, I'll definitely read those eventually. I think The Deep by River Solomon is probably gonna be sooner rather than later, because that one really intrigued me also. And I am really happy that I picked A Master of Jinn. I think I picked it at the right time for me. It had action, character building, world building, magic, mystery, strong women. It was also sapphic. It was also so sapphic, and that was great, and it was exactly what I needed to help me fight a slump, because at the beginning of this video when I started filming it, at this point about 2.5 weeks ago, I was very much so fighting a slump. But P. Jelly Clark and A Master of Gin saved me. It really got me into a reading mood. It really made me want to sit down and read things. I also switched to the audiobook towards the end because I had a lot of house cleaning and appointments and things that I needed to do the last week. But I will say the audiobook narrator, she did amazing. Incredible. Her voices for every individual character were so unique, and the accents were so distinctive, and like I could easily tell apart the characters when she was doing dialogue between multiple people. And as a solo audiobook narrator, I feel like a lot of times that is quite hard to do unless it's dual narrator, but she crushed it. And I also just really liked her voice. It was very calming and soothing, and it really fit the tone of this like chill, confident protagonist, and she did an amazing job. So if you do pick this book up, highly recommend the audiobook. It was a fantastic listening experience. And of course, if you read this, let me know what your thoughts were. I loved it. I loved the Black Gods drums when I read that about 1.5 to 2 years ago. So I'm not surprised that I also loved this one from P. Jelly Clark, and I can't wait to read more of his stuff in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you made it this far in the video, leave a magic lamp emoji. I think there's one. I think there's a magic lamp emoji down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.